Good evening. This is a call to order for the Deep River Board of Finance meeting. It's January 27th, and it is 6:58 p.m. Okay, so first we're going to do a roll call. Catherine Russell.
Here.
Carmela Balducci.
Here.
Jacqueline Carmela.
Yep, I'm here.
I'm here. Barry Love.
Here.
And Michael. Here. Okay, full house. All right, second on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for January 6th.
So moved? Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. That's approved. Okay, the next item is audience of citizens, and I see no citizens here. So we'll move on to Mr. Linder, Treasury report.
Okay, thanks. I'll try to make it quick. On the Deep River Town deposit report, just a couple of things real quick. We did add in the Deep River Public Library. They do use the tax identification number for the town. Also, we just changed signature cards for the library, because the signature card that they actually had on file included the previous librarian who hasn't been with the town for a while, and it had the Linda. Thank you, Linda Hall, who just resigned as the board chairman. So it was replaced. The signature card was replaced with me and Carol as signers on that account, and also with two new people, Donna Migrone, who is actually now the chairman of the board, and she's also the treasurer, and with Susan Rooney, who's now the librarian. So that's been taken care of and updated. And Carol and I signed all the checks. It's under dual control. Going to the Board of Finance, the monthly financial report. Oh, just the other thing is that the Ascend Bank actually dropped their rates by 0.25%, so they're now down to 3.5%, whereas Liberty Bank has stayed constant at the 4%. So that's kind of where we are there. I had taken a lot of money out of Ascend Bank, and did a wire transfer into Liberty Bank so we can get the 4% interest. So as far as the monthly financial summary, I'll just go through this really quick. I don't know, unless you have any questions, you can certainly read through this. Our general fund balances were ahead of last month by $1,486,000. Most of that is just tax revenue monies that have been coming in. And let's see, for rate changes, again, I kind of went over with Ascend Bank. Of course, you know, the Federal Reserve, they've reduced their rates 3 times. And I just put kind of the history with the rates here on this sheet. Capital improvements borrow, there's no disbursements made this month. Let's see here. The ARPA funds, there was a little movement, dispersed $5,280, and we still have remaining a committed amount of $209,477. So again, that's what the balance is, but those monies have been committed, they just haven't been dispersed. Wire transfers, I did 4 wire transfers in the last month. 3 of those went from, well, actually they all went from into the Liberty Bank money market account. As I said, I had wired monies from Ascend Bank to Liberty back on 12/30 for $1 million, and 3 other wire transfers, one for $400,000, one for $600,000, one for $1 million, for $2 million, went from general fund to our Liberty Bank money market account. And most of that money, again, is coming in from tax revenues. Our education equalization grant, we will receive our second installment on January 31st for $413,601.25. And the third installment won't be due until, won't be coming to the town until April 30th. Our total balances are up over last month by $1,542,000. Short-term investments, we budgeted for the fiscal year $150,000. Year-to-date, as of January 27th, 7 months into the fiscal year, we've received $130,463.62 in interest. We're at 86.98%, so we just need $19,536.38 to hit that $150,000 goal. Bond payments, for January, we just had the sewer construction bond, which is now down to 3 payments that we owe. So we'll be done with that in April. One other thing, Liberty Bank Online Banking was established. Thank you, Jackie. I, as treasurer, have been assigned as the administrator, and I've designated 3 users who are able to access information online for the town of Deep River deposit accounts held by Liberty Bank. The users include Paula and Tara from the finance department, so they have access to all of the deposit accounts with Liberty. And Jackie, who's the treasurer of the Community Health Committee, she has access to, limited to the 2 accounts under the name of the Community Health Committee. The only other thing I did put pension meeting highlights. We had a pension meeting that was held on January 8th. And with our financial advisors actually now are with Ivory Wealth Management, so they were in attendance. Charles Crilly, who's the president, and Jeremy Soboleski, who's the senior VP and retirement plan specialist at Ivory. We had several employees from the town. There were 8 actually in attendance, included the Board of Selectmen, me as town treasurer, Tim as the finance chair, Paula from the finance as the finance director, and Peter Lewis as a town employee union representative. No one was in attendance from the firefighters. I was in touch with Tim Lee. Dave Baradas, who was supposed to actually be in that position, has decided to decline because he can't really meet in the afternoons. So they're going to be looking for someone to actually fill that position. So there'll actually be 10 voting members on that committee, and a quorum of 7 members will be needed to pass anything. So our investment advisor, again, is the Ivory Wealth Management, located in Essex. One America will invest, hold funds, and prepare and send appropriate statements, as well as 1099s. 40% of the funds will be invested in equities or stocks, and the other 60% will be invested in bonds. The pension service, we actually still have the same actuary, that's Matt Cecilia, that was used when we had our monies with Essex Financial. The first order of business, we approved the investment policy statement. As you look here, as of December 31st, the portfolio had a combined pension balance between the town employees and the firefighters of $2,159,721, and you'll see the breakdown there between the town employees and the firefighters. We budgeted for this fiscal year for 2025-26 $205,834 for the combined pension plans, and that breakdown is $156,834 for town employees and $49,000 for the firefighters. That probably, when I talk to Paula, they'll receive those monies will actually be received in the end of June. That actually not received by us, but we're going to, again, One America to invest. And you'll see also that the pension plans, this was as of July 1st, 2024, the pension plans were underfunded by $1,931,046. We haven't received the July 1st, 2025 statement, which will give us updated information as to where we stand. And presently there are 4 Deep River retirement accounts, and all 4 of the plans are administered by One America. the plans 1, 2, and 3 are the town's responsibility. And number 4 is actually the employee's responsibility. So number 4 is the 457B plan, and that's self-funded by the employee. Contributions are made from their salaries by payroll deduction, and the employee may contribute up to $24,500 annually. And the other 3 are actually the town's responsibility. So we have the firefighters plan, we have the town employees plan, which was pooled funds that's no longer available. There's still 10 employees that are grandfathered in this plan. And then we have the 401A plan, which is where the town of Deep River contributes 5% of the employee's salary. Presently, there's 8 employees that are in this plan with 1 other to join. And to be eligible, the participant must be employed by the town for a full year. And to be 100% vested, the participant must be in the plan for 5 years. We decided that we will have meetings on a quarterly basis. So the next pension meeting is scheduled for Thursday, April 9th, here at the town hall. On the back of that, I'm not going to get into it, but the pension meeting highlights on the back shows the unfunded accrued liability. So this was as of, again, June 30th, 2024, and you'll see where we were as far as our assets and where we were with our liabilities, and which comes up with the unfunded amount of $1,931,046. And again, I stress that was as of July 1st, 2024, so we're still waiting to see where we are with the July 1st, 2025. When they do that, we'll see where we are. So that's pretty much what I have.
Tom, do you know when we went from a defined benefit to the defined contribution plan?
I'm sorry?
Do you know when we went from a defined benefit to the defined contribution plan, how many years ago?
Yes, yeah.
When?
I'm not even sure. Do you know?
I believe it was 15. I'd have to
15?
double check.
So the 10 employees have been here longer than 15 years that are still in it?
2015 is what I meant.
Okay, yeah.
So
So the
more than
10
10
employees still in the, okay.
So I just kind of wanted to give you a review of that, what went on at that meeting.
Any other questions for our treasurer?
Just as a point of information for me, it says, as of July 1st, 2024, the pension plans were underfunded by near $2 million. What does that mean? What are the implications of that?
Well, I think in the case where we have long-term employees that if they decided that they want to retire and they're taking that at a lump sum, we're going to be hit very hard in that particular case. So what we're trying to do is just to build that back up again, our assets. So the town has been taking, every year we've been trying to, increase the amount that we put into that fund.
And so the if is dependent on no employee deciding to suddenly retire?
Yeah, if we get hit with some long-term employees, we could really wipe out our assets actually.
But to give a little more flavor, and correct me if I'm wrong in any of this. So every year, an actuary studies, the plan, how many people are in the plan, and their age and their anticipated retirement date, based on actuarial studies, and the estimated lifespan of those, and they determine the total cost for the pension, and then they compare that to what pension funds are available, and that's how they come up with where are they funded. Are you 90% funded? Are you 10% funded? And then there are rules that whether it's the towns or corporations need to follow. The rules for the towns, municipalities are different than rules for the corporation. Now, I don't know off the top of my head when I read the last audit report, but I think we're in compliance, but I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's still in compliance at the 1.9. I'm going to say if it wasn't written as anything in the audit last year, then.
Yeah, because I sat through that audit report and it wasn't flagged as an issue.
Okay.
So though it's unfunded by that amount, that's how they come up with that amount, and then it has to meet a certain requirement.
So it's not an area of concern for us when we're preparing a budget for next year do we,
At this time, if the actuary reports and then the auditors had stated, now you're beyond that requirement for municipalities, then we would have to put some more cash into it. Now, I'm gonna stop there because that's beyond my expertise at this
Yeah,
moment.
I know that last year, additional monies were put in, and I would assume this year more would be put in.
Did they make a recommendation at this meeting of what we should put in?
Oh, they
Last
weren't
year.
at the meeting, the actuaries
Oh,
are
okay.
different. Yeah,
We
they're the
still
pension
haven't
service.
wrapped up the audit
Yeah.
report, so
No.
we don't have the information yet. Hopefully, and this is on the agenda, in a few months, 3 months, 4 months.
Hopefully, yeah, I would say by next month, they'll be
Okay.
able to. Oh,
Well-
our audit will take, yes,
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
The pension service, I'm waiting on more information. The actuary has everything from the town, but they're waiting on the firefighters before they can do.
Okay, and then they'll be able to determine where we are as of this date, and then we can go back to the auditors and say, are we in compliance?
Right,
Can we do that ahead of the audit?
probably.
Okay,
I'm sure we can just
So-
give them the numbers and find out.
so we should probably put it on the agenda for next month, just to get everybody up to speed.
We always have the option to put in more than they recommend, and
Yes.
2 years ago, we did. We just, the
Put an
board,
extra
you
100,000
decided that
put
the
an
Board of
extra
Finance.
100,000, right?
Yes, and then last year, we just put in the amount that they recommended. But it's, I believe, so it's discussed every year at the budget time.
Yeah, you could always put more in, but there's a minimum that you're required. And the actuarial and the auditors will tell us that.
Certainly, we're in a better situation than we were in July 2024.
I didn't want anybody walking away with, oh my God, the place is
Yeah,
on
no,
fire.
I didn't.
As of the last audit, we're in compliance, and we'll learn the next audit where we stand, so.
I think one of the problems that arose here, you know, is the old pension fund that they had a buyout.
right,
So when people did retire, they took all their
it
money in
wasn't
one
in
shot.
pieces, it was in one
So
lump.
that depleted the fund
Right.
real quick.
Is the buyout option available on the new pension? I don't know that.
I don't believe so, but I know that was the issue because we had some long-term people that all boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
and it hit the funds
Remember.
hard.
Right, and that's why a lot of companies, towns want to
So-
move away from that. The new plan, the 401A plan, those monies, when they're deposited, are put in each employee's
Okay,
account. So
yeah.
there's never
Right.
the problem where you come to where,
They
you
can
know,
buy it
someone
out.
pulls it, right.
But the old plan, the employees that are still in the old plan,
Yes, they can, if
They
they'd
still
like
have
to,
the
when they
option.
retire,
they can pull it out.
they
yeah.
can.
And Tom, you
So-
said that was about 10 employees still that can take the lump sum buyout,
Yeah,
correct?
it's kind of.
Okay.
Wow.
Oh, it's significant, it's
Yeah.
a big number.
Yeah.
Tom, I want to commend you for getting this meeting to happen. I know it had slipped for about 3/4, and you were very dogged in getting it back on everybody's radar, so thank you for that.
Yeah. All right, that was a good report, Tom, and good questions, so it turned into an agenda. Very good, thank you, everybody.
Those meetings are still open to anybody else that would like to attend, yeah. Actually, the people that attended are now the committee, and they will be voting. But if anyone wants to come and at the next meeting, you certainly
You mean
certainly
this
can.
meeting up here?
Yes. Yeah, the next meeting that's scheduled in April, you certainly,
Who are the 10 members that are voting members?
all of them that's in that.
Well, I see that, but I only count 7.
What's that?
I only count 7.
I think it's the
Two people from.
Oh, the two
Ivory.
people from, yeah, the two people from
So they're actually
Ivory,
voting members or
they're
financial
actually
advisors?
voting members.
Yes.
That seems a little unusual.
And they will both, yeah, both, they'll be
Why?
attending all of those.
Well,
They have a,
They have a
A
vested
vote.
interest in voting on a pension plan, right? Because they're employees of the town?
no,
No.
there are financial advisors.
There are advisors.
I agree with you,
I
Jack.
don't think they should be voting members.
Well, that can actually be brought up as a concern.
Would you bring that up as a concern? Because that, I think that's a conflict, in my opinion.
But that's why we had a quorum, well, the quorum of 7, which would, pretty much, you'd have like 5.
To me, they're advisors
Yeah.
and not voting members, but
Yeah, I mean, it was discussed, we went back and forth,
Yeah,
if I
right.
remember. But we can certainly, Tom, if you want to add it to the agenda for the next pension meeting. We can
I'll just say there was a concern from the, is that the concern of the entire finance board? Or is that just Jackie's concern?
Okay.
I concur with Jackie that it should be looked at. It's not abnormal to do that.
I was there, I was comfortable with it, I mean, it's just, but they were discussing it, bringing it up again. We can, I have no problem with that.
How about the rest of you, Carmelo?
I don't understand the implications of it, what, if they're voting members or not voting members, what's the difference?
Well, I think if they're voting members, they're actually the advisors, so, I mean, they're going to be,
The typical things you vote on is are you moving funds into, you know, an S&P 500 fund versus a bond fund? That's typically what you're voting on.
they're very conservative as far as how they invest the funds, because 40% are stocks or equities, whereas the others are bond funds, which are, you know, fixed rate funds. So they're pretty conservative. I know when we were at Essex Financial, it was just the opposite. It was 60% in equities and 40% in bond funds.
It's not so much their recommendation or their position on the spectrum of conservatism versus fiscal looseness. It's just that usually the advisor does not have a vote. Think of the investment committee we're on.
Yeah,
Just the board has
yeah,
a
understand.
vote.
Okay, so it does seem, how about Barry and Mike, what's your?
Mike, your thoughts?
I mean, how long has it been like this? 15, 20 years? I mean,
Did that,
But just
no,
have-
No, this is, because it's a new,
I mean, I definitely understand Jackie and Katie's concerns. I mean, they're not members, they're advisors, so that's an advisorship role.
So I would concur with Kathy and Jackie then.
It's funny, it didn't cross our minds when we were working it out. Yeah, I think it was just such a,
Well, they have more fiduciary responsibility than we do.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, so
Because-
they're more apt to make the more prudent decisions than us because they're the professionals and they have a lot more fiduciary responsibility than we do.
And quite frankly, if we decide, we talked about it, if we signed a form to allow them to make the decision on investment, and if we did that as a committee, they would have that authority to do that without a vote, because there's ups and downsides of meeting monthly to make a decision where you put your money versus letting professional financial advisors make the decision quickly when they need to.
So you're voting to let them make the decision is one thing versus them being part of the vote to make that decision.
Yeah, I think they would excuse themselves of a vote like that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you know, it doesn't, I have no issue, it doesn't hurt to have this conversation and bring it up
Yeah, we
again
can,
for discussion.
yeah.
But I personally think very low risk. This is a small plan in the scheme of plans, and they're, reputable firm. But I hear you.
I feel okay with it. They have fiduciary responsibility.
Yeah. I mean,
They're the pros. You know?
The main thing that we all spoke about, like we meet quarterly, or we hadn't met for 9 months, and now we're gonna meet quarterly. So if something comes up and they see something come down the pike where they wanna make a change, to shift it from bonds to stocks or whatever, we're gonna give them the latitude to do that.
Sure.
That's fine. They don't have to be on the committee to do that.
But that's, we have to, we as a group have to give them the authority.
Yeah,
Advise.
and we were going to discuss that at the next
yeah,
next
because
meeting.
currently the way it's set up, they don't do
They
anything
can't do it
unless,
unless
right,
we,
right.
So,
And
for example, we had met in, how long, Tom?
Yeah.
Wow.
So 9 months, and they weren't able to do any movements. All right. So that's, we have to meet on a quarterly basis religiously, or we have to give them more authority so that we don't miss opportunities in investment or.
And I still
risk.
think to vote to give them the authority to do that is one thing, but to have them part of that vote just feels like a conflict to me.
Yeah.
So
I
the
think-
committee can vote to say, yes, you have the authority for the fiduciary responsibility to invest where you think is wise. And you're free to do that without our vote. But the decision to make that decision should be in the town.
In that example, though, they would recuse themselves from voting because there'd be a conflict. That would be a.
Why not just set it up so that there is no conflict?
Yeah. Well, any other comments?
I agree that they shouldn't be a voting member, that they should be advisors and that leave it up to the people listening to their advice to take it in and vote positively or negatively. So there isn't a conflict of purpose.
Okay, so we'll end this item, and Tom, you can bring it up at the next pension meeting. And then well, I mean, put it on the agenda so that we don't lose sight of it. But ultimately, the pension committee will be the ones who vote on this decision.
Right.
And the financial advisors would not be part of that vote,
Okay.
if they decide to vote. Okay. Anything else for Tom?
No.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, if you can hang in there up to item 6, I don't know if you have to run out, because I wanted to make sure you were part of that financing discussion for capital.
As long as we make it quick.
It's the capital.
We'll try. All right, the next item is discussion selectmen items, and I know,
Yeah, the only thing that I have, Carol's unfortunately out sick, but the only thing she wanted me to bring up is, we're probably most likely gonna go over budget on the DPW sand and salt, with all the storms we've had. She just wants to put it on the radar now. They ordered more salt today. Seems like every storm we've had, it's been a night or a weekend or a holiday, so that depletes a budget real quick, but she just wanted to let me know.
I know I thought about it more than once during holidays and Sundays, and this Sunday as they drove by. But that's, I would consider that kind of an act of God.
Yeah, but just, at least it's on the record.
Yeah.
Dwayne, is there an update? We had talked at the last meeting about structuring the overtime for our constables to move it away from the full-time to part-time, and it was going to be looked into. Any update on that?
We haven't, there's a lot of moving parts there right now. Our full-time officer is going out on surgery. He's gonna be out for 5-6 weeks, I don't know exactly how many. So there has been no discussions, correct me if I'm wrong, Cynthia.
There is.
So
Okay,
the
thanks.
new resident trooper was supposed to come to the selectmen's meeting tonight to introduce himself to the public. We had a little meet and greet on Friday at the Dunkin' Donuts. But I think once Rich gets his hands around what the needs are for our community, we'll have a better handle on it.
Okay,
And he
thanks.
will be coming in for a budget workshop, I believe.
Yeah, yes, he is good. Okay, anything else on the selectmen side?
That's all we have.
Any questions for select? Okay, moving to the next item, update on anticipated 2026 financing. The first item on there is the capital cash forecast update. I sent it to everybody. I do have a couple of copies if anybody needs. I don't have enough for everybody, but I'll take one. You can send that down to Tom. Anyone else need one? I have 2 more. Send that to Cindy. Anyone else? Okay. So we were very close to getting the financing signed for the first 1.5 million to cover the fire truck and the brush truck and some of the early payments for the firehouse architecture agreement. And I checked with Tim Lee on the status of the fire truck and found that it got pushed from basically February all the way to August.
Wow.
So what happens with that is the first payment is due from when the chassis is delivered to the shop that does the final configuration of the fire truck. So that pushed out a significant amount, $658,000 to August. Okay. And then I also learned that the brush truck was pushed out to April, so that's another $149,000 that got pushed out. So it didn't make sense to move forward with the financing in February. In fact, every month that we delay it, we save about $5,000 in interest payments. So I suggest that 2 things. We definitely don't look at financing until no earlier than April for the brush truck. But I think we should probably cover the brush truck $149,000 in April and do the whole financing for fire truck and brush truck in August, rather than bring in the whole 1.5 million just so that we have the first payment for the brush truck. And I think from our cash, standpoint, Tom, I think we're pretty comfortable as far as being able to delay it for a few months. I just wanted to make, you're shaking your head, yes, I wanted to make sure that our treasurer agrees. Yeah. Okay. So with that, I don't think there's any vote or anything, it's just information. But does anyone have any questions on the latest schedule?
No, it makes sense.
Okay.
Now, Tim, there's a meeting scheduled for Thursday, or there was. I know I was told to.
Yeah.
Is
So
that-
that was scheduled because I put the brakes on the signing it, and everybody was in agreement, including our advisor. But now he basically wants to meet to hear what I just said just now.
So that meeting is still on?
Yeah, it'll be a short meeting. So they want an idea of when they should start the paperwork
Oh, I see, okay.
and finish. We already did all the work. Paula did a lot of the work herself. So we're in good shape. So all we really need to do is if there's any changes between now and August for the paperwork, which I don't think there would be, little updates, and then we would sign the paperwork. So I think by telling them, August is when we want to finance this thing, they'll probably recommend getting the paperwork done by July 1st or something, I'm guessing. But that's what that meeting's
I
about.
presume that Carol probably won't be there.
Oh, because of her illness?
Yeah, right.
But she, just so everybody knows, I had this discussion with Carol too, so I think she's up to speed anyway. And hopefully she doesn't have the flu that I had, because I don't wish that on anyone. Okay. Okay, any other questions on that part of it? All right, and the next section, and Tom, that's, if you had to run, feel free.
No, I just wanted to make sure that was still on for 9 o'clock.
The next item is firehouse status. So at the firehouse meeting, Katie was there, I was there, and Carol was there. And it was really a working meeting at the firehouse. They were putting together the questions or answers for the request for proposal for the architect engineer. So we hung in there and listened to all of that. It was, but what we really wanted to find out was when is the first step on the firehouse? And what we learned, and Katie, correct me if I miss any of that. What we learned was they put the RFP out. There was a fair amount of engineer/architectural firms who showed interest. I think the number was somewhere like 7 at least.
Wow.
Right? So they came back and asked questions. Questions are being answered. So over the next month, by the end of February, I think, they have to put in their final proposal to us. And then they're going to select a going forward architect engineering firm. And I think that decision we made in March. So that means once that's that firm is selected, then the first payments, which we care about, or first expenses associated with the firehouse, will be in April, which would be something like a $40,000 a month expense for the architectural firm. So that kind of kicks off the I'll say spending portion of it. As far as what's going on with the architectural firm and engineering firm, I think we'll learn a lot more once we have them in place, because they'll do all the studies of the existing property and whatever recommendations.
So was a decision made to build on the existing?
No.
Or not yet, so that still
No,
hasn't been
no.
decided?
They still haven't made that decision.
But this firm would help us, or help the firehouse committee with looking at that data.
So we're spending a lot of money knowing that we may not be able to build there.
Well, with the plans and everything, they're building to a lot size against certain requirements by the fire department, and that the design work is applicable, the baseline design work will be applicable, even if it moves. There'll be some amendments necessary.
They talked about whatever that, to Katie's point, whatever that layout and blueprints to build would be, whether it's on this 1 acre lot or that 1 acre lot, that would still be plans that can be utilized. Now, beyond that, what happens if they have to select another site that creates, well, that's the other thing they talked about, is it would create a requirement for another town meeting if another site was proposed, because it would require purchase of land.
But weren't they looking for land anyways? Weren't they looking for another site in the event of?
Yeah, loosely, I mean, not, yes.
Not in an aggressive manner.
Yeah.
It's open.
But they were actually looking from what I was reading in correspondence and so
Yeah,
forth.
they did look at properties, but they haven't aggressively looked at property. Meaning, I think they looked at 3, 4, 5 sites, but they haven't like hired a realtor and, really dug in.
So the problem still lies within the piece of land, not the building?
It's beyond my scope now. I'm just reporting on the meeting, so I don't know the answer to that. I mean,
It's access to the building in case of one of these.
yeah,
Because of the
Massive
layout
floods.
of that land.
Exactly. And the proximity to the river.
possibly the architect engineering firm will verify that for them, because, they talked about maybe you can raise it up 3 feet, or I don't know. That's where that architect's engineering firm comes in.
They're a very thorough, diligent committee. For the meetings I've attended, they
Yeah.
are spot on with detail.
Yeah, yeah. We spent a couple hours there going through question after question from the RFP, so they're doing their job, I think.
I agree.
But I just wanted to share what we learned. Any other questions on that? All right, so look forward to financing in August and saving $5 grand a month. The next item is Board of Education Supervisory Budget Meeting Briefing. Kate, you were at all 3. I was at 2. Carol was at
One.
2. She called into the last
Oh,
one.
she did?
Yeah, she was at 2. So Katie, you were at all 3. Do you want to take a stab at this?
Sure. This is a supervisory budget meeting, and what comes after that will be discussions on Region 4 budget meeting and budget, and then the 3 elementary school boards. So this one, we're coming in at about 1.7 and change. Wait a minute, $17 million.
17 million. Yeah.
I had the 1.7, $17 million, and it's $997,000 increase from the previous year's budget, which is a 6.3% increase. The main reasons for the increase are contractually required step increases on the salary. There's nothing to be done about this. This is a multi-year plan. There are just a number of teachers and staff who are getting these increases. The next thing is the hiring of additional full-time special education teachers. It's the salary and health benefits mostly for that, along with some additional curriculum and materials to execute those. There's going to be a public meeting tomorrow. It'll be at John Winthrop at 7 o'clock, where you will hear a presentation I have. If anyone wants to look at it, I can pass around the current budget line by line and a high line of what is the main drivers of everything. There are some reductions, but net it's close to $1 million coming up. I think the interesting observation I had was that in 3 meetings, there's not been a move to reduce the amount even by $1. Watching it was interesting. I would like to see a little more creativity approach to the whole method of how we're delivering what's needed in terms of special education to the kids. So I hope that at the public meeting, people will come, listen, and ask questions, because this budget gets decided before we get to the point of the other budgets, and it'll be locked in, and it's $1 million.
Yeah. It's amazing to me that the budget's 16 million, the increase is $1 million, so $17 million, which is somewhere around 32% of the total Board of Education budget, and it's decided by the Board of Education, a group of 12, and then ultimately voted on by the whole Board of Education. But as far as public involvement, there was literally, other than Carol, Katie, and I.
And I went.
Carmel went.
Yes, Carmel, I'm sorry, you were there.
And we
last
had one
meeting.
citizen on the phone, I don't know who
Yeah.
that was, beyond Carol.
Very little public involvement, which is a shame, because it's the beginning of the process, it's 32% of the budget, it's $17 million. So I'd encourage whoever's, looking at this video to go to tomorrow's Board of Education public meeting and get involved, because
What's the advertising that's happening to get parents and
There was an
citizens out
announcement
there?
on Facebook today, or yesterday.
But for all three towns, I mean, we really
Yeah.
need to, people
It's
need
been
to
in
know.
Carol's newsletter, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what Chester and Essex are doing to get the parents and
well, interesting, there was.
citizens?
They're not that
There was nobody from Chester or Essex from an audience standpoint at all at the three meetings.
None.
So,
And also what was concerning to me is that our representatives on the Joint Board of Education did not ask many questions, in my observation, or there was one issue that's being looked at, and more data will come to the next time. But it was just almost, here's the budget, and then talking it through, and every issue that was brought up was kind of, well, there was always a pat answer for why that had to be. It was just very disappointing all the way around.
so.
And there does not seem to be a lot of citizen engagement.
And I don't see a lot of advertising to get
And
the people.
to your point, if you put it on Facebook, or somebody put it on Facebook.
I
I'm
put
not
it
on
on
Facebook.
Facebook.
So, and I would say half the people in Deep River probably aren't on Facebook, who knows? So there has to be a better way to let the public know
Yeah.
this is happening, so they can hear it and then decide for themselves, is this good? Or should we reach out to our Board of Ed members to say, you really have to,
About a month ago, Carol and
Sharpie pencil.
I sent a joint email to is it Valley Courier? Is that the name of
Yes.
our newspaper? Suggesting that they write a story about the process of the Board of Ed budgeting process and the dates and how critical it is to be involved. And we didn't get a response from them yet, so.
You know, maybe enough people don't understand the, I'm going to use this word generally, the intricacies of education and the needs of education, just as people about medicine. If somebody tells you you need a PET scan or a chest x-ray or you need to take vitamin such and such, you do it because you don't really understand the whys and wherefores. However, I think once people begin to see the costs to them, to their budget, then they take a more vested interest in that, but it sort of hits itself in the face because you don't see that cost until it's voted on. And Deep River's always outvoted. If we vote no, it goes no place fast. I don't know if people are necessarily interested in how the budgets come together.
Yeah, it's very complex, especially, you know, if you look at bigger towns, Middletown, Meriden, they have one Board of Ed, one Board of Finance, one region, if you want to call it a region, it's a town. We have 3 Board of Eds, we have 32 members on the Board of Eds. We have 6 budgets that we go through. It's the average citizen has no clue how complex this is. I didn't until I had to begin. So it's a shame we can't get one.
You know, somebody asked, why do we need more special ed teachers? And I think the response was because there are more kids who need special ed. And what defines that? And the ultimate answer was, I think from, I don't know what the man's name was, but it comes essentially down to behavioral problems.
Yeah, but the problem is, a lot of us have to ask those questions, so hopefully we get public involvement, because the only way you get scrutiny is if you get public involvement.
And at the end of the day, maybe people just don't care. I hate to say it, but they're always complaining about taxes and our budget, but when you get down to it, this is a gigantic driver, this and Region 4,
Yeah.
big drivers. So if you're upset about your property taxes, you pretty much have to weigh in at this, because that's what's driving it. It's not our decision on how many roads we're paving this year.
Yeah. So the intent of having it on here as an agenda item is just for awareness, everybody. I mean, a lot of us in this room are aware, but hopefully the viewing public will be more aware too. Okay. All right, any other discussion on this item? Next one is update WPCA financial support. Paula, you want to give an update?
Still looking for the part-timer, yeah, we, moves fast through that hiring agency, the staffing agency. Did one interview, actually got one scheduled. She was going to start first week of February, and she changed her mind and decided to go for a full-time position instead of part-time. So we now, just today, got 2 new resumes to be able to look at. One of them looks phenomenal, and I'm excited, and I have an interview scheduled tomorrow for the person, and then the other person on Thursday, so.
Sometimes when one person backs out, it works out for the best, because that was an awesome resume that we get that, yeah. It sounds like somebody who wants a personal life, what's it called, balance?
Work-life balance, yeah.
And wanting to go full-time to part-time, so, but very, very qualified. Fingers crossed.
Yes.
Any questions on that one? All right, update on timing of 24, 25, and the budget, financials, and audit. Anything new to talk about there?
Yes, they are scheduled to come out the end of February. I don't have the particular date, but they're coming out.
They meaning Mahoney Sable?
Yes.
Okay, excellent, we'll know more then. The next, any questions on that? The next item is the 26-27 Board of Finance schedule and budget process. So I've got a couple of items I want to talk about, or at least make sure it's on everybody's radar. So let me just find my... All right, so the first thing is, we locked in on all the dates at last month's financial Board of Finance meeting for this year. And in there, we had the budget workshops. And I'm reminding everybody because, I was thinking today, we have a Board of Finance meeting, and then, next week will probably be quiet. And, well, February 3rd is our first budget workshop. So it's amazing how fast that hits you.
Yeah.
So make sure that's on everybody's radar screen. And at that...
What time is that?
It's at 6:30.
Okay.
6:30, February 3rd. And Eric Waltke, our Public Works leader, manager, director, I'm not sure what the proper title is for him, so we'll call him all those. He will be presenting his ask for budget for Public Works and for the transfer station, and those will be February 3rd. And that's a big budget, so it'll be interesting to hear from him. Also, every town leader and board member had to submit their budgets to Carol by January 19th. I was going to ask Carol, I don't know if, Dwayne, you know if
She told me today she's received one,
all right, so she's going to have to chase them down.
and I'm not gonna go into detail, but it was quite high.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it looks like we're going to have some excitement in the workshops, I imagine. So let's get ready for those, because February 3rd, and then the next one's February 10th, and the next one's February 17th. So we're going to have 3 workshops before our next Board of Finance meeting.
On February 3rd at 6 is the elementary school Board of Ed meeting. Do we need to tag team that at all? What would you like to happen?
Is that a workshop meeting, or is that a...
Workshop. It's the first of 3.
I think, because Carol and I addressed the elementary school, so we gave our kind of first day pitch, and that's really the first day. So I guess I'd leave it up
You're
to...
covered.
Yeah, I think we're okay with the first one. Yeah, I think it'd be more important to be in the February 3rd workshop with Public Works and Transfer Station. So that's good. All right. All right, I think that's all I had for the budget process. Does anybody have any questions on the budget process?
Is there any particular approach you want us to take, Tim, when we're looking at these budgets? Do you have a percentage in mind for increase, or are we trying to cut? Is there any overarching?
Well, the The message that Carol gave in her memo was hold flat, except for, well, it's gonna be hold flat except for any union negotiated, wages that's already been negotiated. But I think a lot of the unions are negotiating this year. So the guidance was, don't put any increase in, we'll make that adjustment after the negotiations. So as we look at these budgets, unless there's a union that already had, and Dwayne, I don't know, is there any union that
They should all be expired.
they shall be expired? So the message is then flat year over year across the board. So that's the beginning point. So that's the challenge to the individual leaders, and they'll come in here and give their pitch. And I think we have to challenge them and be open-minded but responsible to the taxpayers. I mean, I've been through many budget meetings in the corporate world, so this will be interesting what it's like in the municipalities. It's a little more authoritarian in the corporate world.
So every employee's union is going to come in for a new union contract.
That's after, that's not related to the budget process, but.
But
there's
it will
gonna-
affect the budget.
Yeah, there's gonna be union negotiations.
They should be starting shortly.
Okay.
So if you asked today for a number, an increase, like this past year, we knew that their increase was 3%. So it was easy to factor into this budget we're working on now. But going forward, we won't know that until probably late spring.
And each department is being asked to come in with a 0 increase in their budget.
That's with the direction that Carol gave in her memo. Let's see what the exact wording is.
Dwayne, I have a question. So, how many unionized employees do we have in this town? Besides maybe Public Works and WPCA, right?
In here, all the ladies in here.
Okay, and the town hall.
I think
Yeah, all right.
And now the
there's probably 15 to 20,
Okay.
And how many unions?
just one.
One union, okay.
Well,
The
now
police-
now that the
the
police,
police.
now that the police, so you're gonna have two, it's
Police
the same
department.
union, but it'll be two separate contracts, which I disagree with that, it should just be one contract.
That's interesting, that's over complex. That's getting,
For two individuals,
well, that's, I mean, is that ship set?
Yeah, do they have a different bargaining agent? Who is their, the police
in
officers?
the past, in the past, the police were not represented.
Okay,
They just fell underneath the same town contract like all of us.
understood.
Even when Katie was a selectman, we got the same raise as everyone else. So if the town got 3%, we got 3%.
Okay.
The selectmen, everyone got the same across the board. Now that the police went out on their own and they have representation now. A new union called UPSU or UPSI, something like that.
Okay.
So that's already done.
Yeah.
Yes,
Because once you're-
that ship has sailed.
Okay.
And then the town employees and the WPCA employees, they're joining forces with that same union.
Okay.
In the past, in the past, it was Pete and Angus,
Right,
would negotiate the contract, and that was it.
understood.
So
Thanks.
this one, just so you know, is gonna probably cost more money, because there's gonna be attorneys involved now.
Yeah.
And in the past, Angus and I did it with Pete, and there was no attorneys, and it was done. But now you can have attorneys in it, and when there's attorneys,
Yeah.
there's money.
All right, well, that's not part of this agenda, but it's a good discussion. So once that negotiation happens, then that gets put into the budget. Okay? All right, any other questions on the 25-26 budget process? Okay. All right, we're on to item 12, other businesses. Anybody have any other business? I see none. So we will move on. Well, we're moving on to adjournment. Oh, no, we're not.
We didn't do the budget.
I missed item number 11, which is the most lengthy.
Everyone was holding their breath.
Yeah. Sorry about that. So I skipped right over
I'm all
that.
excited.
Yeah. I said, wow, how did that end so early, I was thinking. All right, so I've got the budget report in front of me that's dated 1/27. Paula sent it out. It sent out today. We had snow over the weekend. Town hall was closed yesterday, so that's why it was a little bit late. So, but that's an act of God. So starting out, what I'll do is I'll go through the process I went through last month, because we just did this on the 6th. I'll go through and identify the areas where I have questions, and then please, if anyone has anything on, as I'm going along, stop me, ask your question, and we'll move along with it. I think it's only been, 21 days since the last time we did it, so I didn't see any major questions. But let's start with revenue. We collected 13 million, but Paula said that some more came in and it didn't get posted yet, so it's
Right,
actually
yeah. So the total is 13.9, yeah, almost
Yeah.
14.
almost,
So-
we'll round it to 14 million.
Yep.
So we
And-
collected 14 million, that's 74%. That's actually a little higher with the money.
79, yep.
79%. Our target for this time of year is 58%, right? So 7 months out of the year.
No, because this is the time of year when we start collecting the second half of the real estate taxes.
Yeah.
So it should be 100% soon.
Soon.
Well, yes, you're right.
90-something.
You're right.
Because by February 1st, they're
Yeah.
delinquent.
Yeah, well, yeah, put it another way, if this was 50%, we'd be sweating, so it's
Yes.
79%, so we're, I don't know if I'll say we're on track, because I don't know when the last.
We're on
one's
track.
back.
Kate just told me today that she's looking at like 1.2 coming in from one vendor and another 2+ from CLMP.
They'll just like to wait till the 31st.
Yeah, they wait, yeah, till the last week.
Okay. All right, so the next item is service charges, and I only have one question on that. I was just looking at bulky waste, which is only 25%. Does anybody have a feel for, is that seasonal? I mean, does it pick up in the summer months and slow down in the winter? Any idea what drives that 105? That's the bulky waste side, 105. We collected 26,000. We only collected 25%. Anybody have a feel for that at all? No?
I'm not 100% sure.
I've been actually wanting to reach out to,
Sarah?
no, our
Eric?
Eric, thank
Yeah.
you. And that'll give me an opportunity to give him a call and ask him. Okay? Because Paul, you don't have any information on that. And then the next one I have highlighted, you already answered, 100,000 WPCA debt, that's going to be invoiced in February, correct? Okay. Moving down, Tom answered my question on educational equalization grant. The next one is coming in, what did you say in your report?
January 31st.
January
It's
31st.
like 431,000.
All right, so that's in good shape.
At the Board of Supervisory District, when I asked them what an average cost to a taxpayer would be with their budget, and I think it was Lon Seidman who said something about the equalization grant. Is this the money he was talking about?
Yeah,
That would
yes,
apply
yes,
to
yeah.
what, how it would affect a Deep River taxpayer?
Right, so, and it's based on the, I won't say the wealth of the town, but it pretty much
Yeah,
is the wealth. It's the wealth of the town, so depending on the wealth of the town, the state allocates a certain amount of a grant to each town.
Right.
So out of the 3 towns, I think we get the most. Chester gets like $900,000, top of my head. And Essex, maybe a couple $100,000.
I don't even think that one,
I-
very low.
Yeah. So if we did not have this $1.2 million, taxes would go up in town to cover it. Or we'd have to really push hard for the Board of Ed to reduce their budget, and we know how hard that is. So, does that answer your question?
Somewhat.
Oh. You want to ask it again? I don't-
No, I'll just go through this myself and I'll come back with a question next month.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. And the other question I had was grants from municipalities is expected to be in June, and that's the 104,000.
Yeah, it comes at the end of the
You
year.
answered that last time. So I'm on page 2, and I'm going all the way to the bottom. If anyone has anything before that, please speak up. HR support was at 124%. I think Carol would probably be able to answer that. I don't think Wayne, you would know.
Is that the
That's
consultant
part
fee?
with Sheila, yes.
We have a
Rewriting
consulting
the-
engagement to work with the problem with the library.
Well, that's
It
not what we
started
hired her
out,
for.
right,
The
redoing the
handbook.
handbook, yeah.
Yes.
And then it,
So is the handbook done?
this close.
Yeah.
So she got additional work over and beyond.
Outside of it,
Yeah,
yes.
which is
Yes.
driving it. So it's, I'll call it employee
Relations.
relations.
There you go.
That's the word. Appreciate that. All right, I'm on page 3. I have nothing other than, at the very bottom, telephone, 35,000. The last time we spoke, I think it was this one, where we were looking into a new contract.
For the phones?
Yeah, because it's over budget.
Yes.
The
Frontier is the last one that we're trying to get implemented. It was put on hold because we're now going to be using the CEN, the Connecticut Education Network, for fiber. So the Frontier didn't get implemented until, it should go into effect this month. So we'll start seeing some savings probably this month through the end of the year, and then we're switching to CEN.
What happened to the consultant that, Katie, do you know?
Schooley Mitchell?
Yes.
Yes,
They're
they're the
working
ones
with
that are
us.
still.
Okay, so they're doing
Yes.
it, and they're
They
making
are.
progress.
Yep, they're
So,
still
so
involved.
so what is Connecticut
Education
Education
Network.
Network? And that's, they're cheaper than Frontier, or they're different, or they?
That's what's funny, it may
They-
end
they-
up being Frontier Fiber still using for the CEN, but it's supposed to be cheaper through the Connecticut Education Network.
Okay, so they have a contract probably with Frontier, because only Frontier has fiber. So in order for anybody to go through fiber, that'd be going through Frontier.
I don't know, I thought the Connecticut Education Network actually went through and put out fiber to all the schools first.
Because I think
And
it's a
then-
state thing.
They did.
Right, yeah.
That's new to me, yeah.
Mhm.
So they.
And now they're expanding, where towns can join.
Okay, so they're just running fiber to the schools and they'll run fiber to town halls, is that what they're doing?
Yeah, but it is funny, like I said, even though we think we're getting CEN, because Frontier's already run down through here, they're probably bringing Frontier in anyway
Yeah. Okay,
and working with them.
okay. But the short answer is, we're gonna have a better contract and we'll be able to reduce our costs for next year.
Yes, and hopefully that will start this month with the Frontier package that we have temporarily until CEN kicks in.
Okay. Great. And I'm turning to page 4. I highlighted sewer fees in the top, but it's only 500, it's 111%. Do we know what's going on with sewer fees?
They went up. But we didn't budget for it.
Did yours go up at your
Yes,
house?
they did. That's how I know.
Yeah, this is wasn't it the first year that the WPCA increased their fees?
Okay, yeah. Now, yeah, I got it. I remember that now. Increased fees, not budgeted. Okay. So we'll be double that then by the end of the year.
No, those are
No.
one-time.
The-
Those are one-time fees, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, so
Okay.
we're okay.
Time fee. That's good news.
Yep.
Quick charges. All right, I have nothing else on this page. Nobody else? Page 5. I don't have anything other than what was answered in past meetings, which I'm happy to point out if anyone needs to. Anybody have any comments on page 5?
Tim, back on page 4, what's the purchase professional process? There was nothing budgeted.
Professional what's the dollar amount, so I know what I'm looking at?
Nothing was appropriated, nothing was
And it's
revised.
$3,050.
Year-to-date actual was $3,050.
Okay, purchase professional, I don't know.
I
Let's-
wish I could log in. I was planning on using this for my details so I could look and for some reason I can't log in. I do remember that. It was something, can't remember off the top of my head what it's for, but it is something new that Amy was using.
A something or a someone?
It's not a service, a software service.
Well, why don't, if you could shoot us all
Sure.
an email tomorrow, that way we'll all have the answer. All right, let's see, all email, all. Okay, turn in page 5. On page 5, I don't have anything other than I've already got some answers from last meeting. Anybody have any? Okay. I'm moving to page 6 if there's no questions on page 5. And if you want me to slow down, please say so. Okay.
No, it's, I mean, for those of us that have been doing this for a few years.
Yeah. Page 6, the only question I have is, I have 2. The first one is in, it's more of a comment, building official. So, a couple things. One, when I looked at this thing we talked about, it's basically big charges, our building inspector. It's budgeted for $38,000 a year, but when I looked at previous years, it's always been running about $80,000. So I don't quite understand why they budgeted at $38,000. But I think the thinking is they budget at $38,000, and any overage is correlated to any increase in permit fees. So any increase in permit fees should cover any overage. I think I might have a different way of budgeting it this year, or a recommendation. I think you got to budget what you pay somebody, and so I think in my opinion, we need to budget it differently next year.
What you guys know too, and we talked about this before, is not only do the fees cover his salary, but does the town make money on those fees? Because we should be.
Well, we're not allowed to technically.
No?
Yeah, it's supposed to cover our
It's
costs.
just, it's,
Didn't we say he was coming in to give us a report? I thought it was in
Yeah,
the minutes.
I was here, he stopped me in the hall, we sat down.
I think it's right here.
He basically what he told me, and I kind of already understood this, is for every building permit, there's the paperwork's filled out, and there's a fees associated with the permit related to how much the modification or the building is. So for instance, if and I don't have the percentage in front of me, but if you're building a house for $500,000, you're going to be paying a permit fee of something like $7,000 or $8,000. Right? If it's $1 million business they're building or $1 million house, you're paying $16,000 to $20,000 for a permit fee. When work is done in any of the schools, Dick told me, the schools are required to pull permits. So depending on the value of the work in the schools, they pay. So if they did $1 million worth of work in a school, they're paying $16,000 to $20,000 permit fees. So when our building inspector is reviewing projects in any of the schools, in theory he's being paid because he's not being paid directly, but the town is being recouped for his time because the schools pull permits. Okay. So on the permit line, and I look at, I said, well, how are we doing on permits? And that's page 1. You could see that we've collected $67,000 in permits year to date, or 61%. So we're slightly favorable. But, I think both should be budgeted separately, the building permit line and the building inspector expenses, as what we expect to pay those services, so that it's a cleaner, more transparent look. My opinion. But that's just going forward for the future budget.
That'd be great.
Any questions on, that was the gist of what Dick told me, but it was pretty basic process.
And if you look the past 2 years, there's been big projects at the schools. You had the mold up there, which was $5 million. You had the elevator, which was $1.2 million. I don't know if they took building permits out for the fields, which was $9.5 million. So You know, he spent a lot of time up there
Yeah.
going through all those projects.
So, you know, doing the math, that's like $180,000. We'd have to look at past years, but
Right.
that's a good chunk of change. So that's how the schools pay for that service, is through permitting, which is good. I didn't know schools had to pull permits, so that was an education for me. And then the next line item, the insurance and bonds, I had a note that you were gonna investigate that, Paula.
I'm sorry, what were you asking?
Page 6, insurance and bonds were at 142,000 year-to-date, or 112% of the budget.
Okay, yes, that's Karma. The majority of that money is for Karma, and the workers' comp and the LAP liability auto policies went up.
What's car?
Karma, that's, what do they stand for? Connecticut Interlocal...
Municipal something,
Municipal-
agency.
Yeah. They,
Is that like a
our
co-op?
agency, that's basically what it is. They came about to ensure municipalities at the lowest rate that they can possibly offer.
And by them being 112%, is this a one-time bill, or is this?
It's two halves, so, but not 50%. And that's why at first it looked like, oh, we paid our, first installment, we look good, we're about, near the 50% mark, but the second half I didn't realize was going to be more, and that's what put us over.
So we got the second half, so no
We
more for
did,
the year?
Yeah, that's it for the year.
Stands for the Connecticut Interlocal Risk Management Agency. And they provide workers' comp, liability, auto, property for Connecticut public sector.
Okay, got it, thank you. No more charges for
Nope,
this year?
that's done, yeah.
And I know a lot of co-ops at the end of a certain cycle, they look at all their claims, they do adjustments, and they give rebates back.
Yes, they do that.
So and when does that rebate come?
I'll have to look that up, I don't know the month.
Okay. Because that might bring us back in budget.
No, it's not that much.
It's not like 50,000, it's like, okay. All right, moving to page 7, if nobody has any other questions on page 6. Page 7. My questions are in the police protection line items, and I think we already kind of addressed that. It was basically the full-time officer and overtime officer is 64%, so that's driving it a little high. So we'll hold that answer, I guess, until the next meeting, Dwayne and Cindy, you guys can follow up on that. Was the state trooper, coffee with the state trooper, was that a public meeting like, or?
Yeah, just a meet and greet.
Yeah, but was it just?
Carol posted her letter for people to come.
Okay, I didn't notice that, I went. Okay. All right, moving to page 8. I have nothing on page 8. No one else? Page 9. I have, let's see, only one. The town aid road. I know last time you talked about we're going to move some funds, road paving need to move. So you were gonna move either some actuals or move budget. What we were gonna do? Paula, do you remember?
Yes, the whole thing will be moved to the capital and non-recurring fund and spent out of there. And it had been a concern because they don't always spend it in the year when we get the grant. And since it is really a capital asset, keeping our roads.
Yeah. So is there a capital budget that covers this? Because when you pull it out,
Meaning,
Where did that come from?
it will just come out and go to the capital non-recurring fund. So say, for example, this 197 or I should say the 187 that was spent, that's actually going to be using last year's funds, which are sitting in the capital and non-recurring. So
Okay,
we're
all
actually
right.
ahead of the game. The 197 will move from here into CNR.
Got it.
Yeah.
And that'll cover any summer paving, I would imagine, or spring, I should
However,
say.
yeah.
So, I think you answered my question. So, last year, unspent funds were moved into a capital account, so it's, okay. And it was unspent, so now those two will be matched together.
Right.
And when are you gonna move those?
They'll be done shortly.
That's part of the audit or no?
Well,
Okay.
yeah, oh, definitely that. That portion from last year will be moved before the auditors come. But even this, I'd like to move also,
Okay,
to
good.
have everything in there.
Okay. All right, the next line item I had, no, I already had that answered last time. I don't have any other questions on this one.
I just have one. Salt and sand, do you think will be within budget? Or no, there's no way to know?
It's gonna go over.
It's gonna go over,
Yeah.
It shows right now that,
Because we're under right now.
yeah, but we got an installment last week and we're getting more
Okay.
now, so it's gonna jump up real quick.
There's a lot of salt on the roads.
Yeah.
And our deep freeze is gonna last until
Yeah, this
like
weekend.
February.
February.
Yeah, so,
And we'll know next Tuesday, because Eric's coming in. Right, he's the first
Yeah.
one.
Are they gonna have to,
Yeah.
since it's not gonna melt much, have to like bring in a backhoe and move those big piles that are blocking corners?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, so it's gonna really go over.
I saw downtown Essex doing it, I saw downtown Chester doing it, so.
Yep.
Tim, could we go back to page 8 for a minute?
all right, we're going back to page 8.
On the fire departments, there's a line called contingency, which didn't have a budget, but it was spent at $1,219.72. What was that for?
Again, I apologize, I can't open up and look at the detail. I believe off the top of my head, it was something that we're actually going to be moving out of that line into, gosh, I wish I could remember. It was either some of the firefighters had helped in a town-wide event, and so it's going to move to where we pay for the town-wide events, such as Deep River Day, those kinds of things. Or it was actually something that got posted there accidentally where the firefighters assist in a private event that we actually bill out and get reimbursed for that. So I don't believe that belongs there, and it's one of those two.
So
So
if you could email us all with the same,
That one also, sure thing.
on the same email, that way we'll all know. Okay. Page 9, anybody else have anything on page 9? Page 10. Page 10, I've got 2 items of questions, and maybe it's better for the Park and Rec person, but first one I have is summer programs are at 93%, that's 36,000. I'm assuming because, well, that's kind of
Yeah.
that summer.
Timing.
Yeah, so, timing. Okay. And then maintenance is at 87%. Maintenance AL, I don't know what that is. Anybody have any insight on that one?
What
That's the-
page are you on, I'm sorry?
Page 10.
10.
Actual 39,349, 87% of the budget. That could possibly be timing too, because, maintenance of fields.
That's actually maintenance of all buildings. It falls under that line item.
Oh, that's all buildings?
Yeah, yep.
All town buildings or all park and rec?
All town buildings.
Does that make
No,
sense to have
that-
it there?
No, that's
No,
just the
for
Park and Rec building.
maintenance.
Park and Rec building.
For
Just park
cutting of the
rec.
grass,
Yeah.
all, I thought that was a cutting of the grass
All
of
fields?
everything.
Everything belongs under there, but I believe it's also maintenance. Then we have a 30 grand maintenance. Let me find that one.
Well, if it's lawn care, then that would be timing, but.
I will verify that too. I thought it was more than just grass.
Okay.
I also think it's the two buildings at Jefferson Platwood.
Mhm. But it's not just Park and Rec is what I mean. It's, yeah, everything.
I thought it was for the grass cutting, but I could be wrong.
No, you could be right, and the other 30 is for building maintenance.
Yes.
That may be why the Park and Rec was looking for the contract for the lawn care, maybe that's what they're
Correct.
asking.
Correct. See, we put everything into that. It used to be split up and we put it all into the Park and Rec.
One contract.
And now they're asking to split it up, but they'll want that $45,000.
Oh, yeah, we know that doesn't work that way.
So, but I believe it's for all the cutting. Platwood Park, Devitt's Field,
Veterans Park.
yeah, all of them.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I believe that's what it is.
Well, Paula will do a little digging on that. I don't.
They cut Veterans Park too?
Yeah. Somebody does.
Veterans still? Isn't that their
No.
property?
It's the same guy that does the fields. What's his
Joe
name? Joe
Mazzaro.
Mazzaro.
Winthrop Cemetery.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, on to page 11. And I did not have any questions on that. Anybody have questions, page 11? Page 12. I did have a question on transfer to capital. I understand, you sent me that spreadsheet, so I understand where that 387 comes from, but let me just make sure everybody understands that before I ask my question. I have to find, I think I printed that off. I don't have it in front of me, it must be on my desk. But, so we have a list of capital that we budgeted for during the fiscal year. And that list of capital had things like the fire truck, the brush truck, everything we're financing. And then there were items that we were not financing, like, I want to say, a dump truck maybe? There were a couple items we weren't financing that totaled $387,000.
Payloader or something.
What was that?
Payloader maybe?
That could
Maybe.
be, yep.
Let me just see if payloader's on this one. No, payloader's on the finance one. But there were a couple other items that total 387. If I had it in front of me, I'd show it to you guys, but it was all voted on as part of the budget. But my question was, where are we with the 387? Have we spent anything on it? Have we?
I'll have to get all that together for you. I apologize. I'm still working on the old borrowed money too, the 1.425.
Yeah, okay. Because basically, we have a budget for 387, and there's a list of 3 or 4 items. Top of my head, I want to say something like, actually, I think, let me just take 2 minutes, and if I can pull it up in 2 minutes, I'll share it with you. If not, I won't waste your time, so hang on.
Talk what's left from the original 1.4 borrow. And the original 1.4 had something, I want to say $500,000 or something for the fire department for radios or something.
Yeah, there were there's 2 things. First, there was funding that we borrowed, and we want to find out, did we spend it all? That Paul's working on that. And then there was a list of capital that new capital we're buying this fiscal year. And the unfinanced portion of that is $387,000, and there were like 3 items.
I think the sweeper might have been in there also.
I'll bring up the list next. If I can.
How do you feel on this weekend?
That's what I was working on when you came in earlier tonight.
Okay, so we'll get that answer for next month, because it's more of just an update of what do we spend, or if we spent any money on it yet. Okay. So we'll put it on next month.
I keep trying.
That's okay.
It's not recorded all in one place. It's like this puzzle of finding.
We'll put it in that person, that'll accelerate all this. All right, that's all I had on page 12. Page 13, I have nothing. Okay, so, starting on page 13, so.
I only have 12 pages.
Printed is general fund.
Oh, okay, general fund, okay, got it.
13 is
So let me just
That's
explain.
special page.
Yeah, let me explain something.
Only
So,
certain people get it.
no, but everybody got it in the email, right? Yeah. So at our last budget meeting, incubator fund was brought up, I think by Katie. And I asked, where is that account? And then Paul's answer was that that account's not here. I said, well, why is that? And are there others? And Paul said, yeah, there are other accounts that aren't here. I said, well, why aren't they there? Paul said, well, they're just not part of this report. So I said, well, we really need to see these accounts. So I sat with Paula, I don't know, about a week ago. And I fully understand, almost fully understand, I want to meet one more time. I'm comfortable with the accounts, and I understand why they're not included. We might want to include a couple of them, I want to talk about it. But I wanted to make sure that everybody sees them and visibility, so now we know every single account on the books of Deep River. Certain accounts were excluded, maybe for very logical reasons, but I just wanted to make sure, because when I heard there were some accounts that we weren't looking at, I immediately think, well, we
Are
need
they
them.
revenue?
There are some, well, that's my next question. We can go through them tonight, or we can wait till next month and go through them in more detail after everybody has a chance to look at them. It's up to you guys. I'm more than happy to go through them tonight, or we can wait until you guys have a chance to look at the report that Paula sent out and ask the question. I will say I looked at them with Paula about a week ago, and I wasn't, shocked with, oh my God, what's this? It was all, made sense and logical. So I'm happy to go through them with Paul's help, if you guys want to stay late tonight to do it, or we can wait till next month after you guys look at the reports. So, totally up to you guys.
I'd like to look at them before we go through.
Yeah, some of them are revenue, depends on the different type of fund, like we have the grants fund, so of course, funding is coming in for grants and spent out of there. Incubator fund, we receive rents,
We can.
and then we spend out of that.
Why don't we, it won't take long, we'll go page by page, I guess. You want to do that?
Oh, sure.
Well, that's, Katie wants to, we can take a vote, or I can move forward, I really don't care.
Don't make it easy to me, I mean,
I gotta leave by 9 to go to work, so.
Yeah.
You guys want to.
All right,
Because
I'll wait till
everyone
next
can
month and
just
everyone can read it and have their questions.
Yeah, I'd rather have it in hand so I could look at it.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, let's do that, because it's, to me, it's not, earth-shattering, urgent, important to do it tonight. I just want to make sure, because it was in the report that Paul sent out, if somebody looked at it and said, oh, page 13, we didn't go through it. Well, because we weren't going to this meeting, we're going to do it next meeting.
On that paper, Paul, because I didn't read that, the revenue, so when we bring stuff from the transfer station to Calamari's, that's revenue, right?
Yes.
So I would like to see what we generate from the transfer station to offset what we're spending at the transfer station to run it.
Yeah.
So you have a net number at the end of the year.
Yeah, that could be my question to Eric on, when I went to page 1, my first question on something called bulky waste site revenue. And we collected only 26,000 so far year to date. That might be part of that.
That I think, on revenue, on a bulky site, I think that's when people bring in the brush in a trailer, or they bring in bigger logs.
Oh, like businesses and stuff.
Yeah, I believe that's what the bulky site is.
Okay.
I'm more talking about the metals,
Yeah, I don't see that on here, so that's a good question.
or maybe it's all combined together. But again, I think it would help.
To have it delineated.
Well, again, you know that we generated $26,000 and we spent X number, so that line item comes down
Okay,
as a net.
yeah, that's a good question. Okay, I will just spend, just so everybody doesn't walk out of here scratching their head, what are these extra accounts? So just like 5 minutes, I'll go through them real quick, and then we'll go in much more depth. So the first section was some grants that we got, it's $175,000. The major grant on there was for the Deep River Elementary School roof, and Paul is in the process of matching the revenue with the
That was-
expense that happened last year.
A couple of years.
Couple years
Yeah.
ago. So that's more of a reconciling item. So that was the major portion. The next one of the 175 was Department of Housing grant for 30,000. So, you know, I think maybe grants belong in our top package, but I want to talk to you more about that. And then there was, the next section must be state grants, and the biggest ones are, again, a Department of Housing grant for 10,000 and a NIPS grant, the little nip bottles, $4,000. So these are all revenues that come into our bank accounts.
Why is NIPS on there twice? I'm just curious.
NIPS revenue and NIPS expenditure, is that what you see?
No.
No.
This was,
It's under grants and it's under
um,
state grants.
lose it.
I don't know if your page went.
Here,
There it is there, NIPS. Yeah, the other is an expenditure. Yeah, the top one, the 40 is revenue, and the next one is expenditure.
So it's revenue coming in and then how we spent the revenue.
So what, I'd be curious as to how we spent it.
And so how that is getting spent right now is, you know how there's the program of the food waste?
Yeah.
And we get invoices from Blue Earth for those. So right now, that's what we're using to pay the majority of the Blue Earth.
So the grants, I'm thinking right now, but I want to talk to Paul and Carol, see if I'm missing anything. I think the grants should be in our normal budgeting process so we can see it and talk about them. But unless I'm missing something, you don't have to answer now, we can talk about it. That's another meeting. But then the next section are all the ARPA funds. And because we account for ARPA funds separately, Tom has it in his bank accounts. And then as we spend ARPA funds, we're accounting for it in these accounts. So we separated it from the budget because there's the funding and then
Basically, the reason the funds are kept separate is so you can see the money coming in and out for each particular program.
yeah. So whether we incorporate these in our main report,
You mean our monthly meetings?
yeah,
Yep.
it may be
Yep,
worth
it
it.
can-
That's what I'm trying to get at is maybe at the end of the day, there's nothing to hide here. It's just more visibility. And then there's a section on police services grants. It looks like, is that a grant? Police.
So police services, that's not a grant. That is.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I had my notes.
Right. That is when different companies, say CLMP or different contractors around town, hire the police department to, just set up safety on the roads. They get charged a certain amount, and then we bill those vendors or companies for the time that the police spend there.
So the revenue and the expenses.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it won't equal in that. We charge a little more to the vendors so that the police have a little extra money to spend on equipment that they need.
So again, this one might get rolled up, and I don't see why we wouldn't put it in the main report. And then the next section is social services donations of $24,000 and social services.
That's Jackie.
That's mine.
Of 16,000. So
My baby.
So that's not a town, that's like your own, that's.
Yes,
Yeah.
it has nothing
So
to do
that
with
doesn't
town
belong-
funds.
yeah.
It doesn't really.
That's appropriate to be.
You're free to add it there, but it's
yeah.
separate.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to put it in
No.
the town budget, so, but that's what that is. And then, let's see, is this different from that? The next page over is donations of $4,000. Is that still, that's this one right here?
Oh, this is actually, we did this as a pass-through for the library park that was just put in, and the revenues just haven't been recorded yet, but it's definitely, more revenue was taken in than spent.
That's donations for the park, and then the
Yes.
expense of the park, which
Yes.
again, it's like a separate
Yes.
project.
Yep, separate
Okay.
monies, separate funding.
So that's 4,000.
Is that the Friends of the Deep River Library? Is that the monies that goes?
I
No,
know
this
it
was,
was Sarah
sustainability.
Connor, yeah,
What's that?
It's the
sustainability.
Sustainability Committee.
So-
Sarah Connor ran it.
So for instance, 4,000 was donated, but.
It's actually more than that.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna
It
ask.
just hasn't been
And the
recorded.
equipment is 7,600, so it's.
They actually have money left over. They
Okay,
did
yeah.
great in their fundraising.
So that's kind of like Jackie's
Mm-hmm.
project. This is a project, doesn't belong in with the town, but you're accounting for it, which is
Yes.
proper. All this is proper, by the way, it's just, and then we get to the section on incubator revenue,
Tell me what page you're on.
19.
19.
The next section is incubator revenue and incubator expense. And again, I think this should be moved up to the, maybe. I guess I need to understand and talk to you and Carol more, but I think just for understanding, we should all understand what the incubator revenue and expenses are anyways, but not tonight. I think I suggest that that probably be an agenda item at a future Board of Finance meeting, if that's okay with you guys. And then, page 20. Capital non-recurring fund. I believe this is where we put, when we paid for the payloader, was it?
Yep.
Or,
So
no, the 149 is actually the brush truck down payment.
there should be a lot of
Yeah.
accounts under that.
Well, it ties to the 149 we paid for the brush truck.
Yep.
I'm guessing that's what
Yeah,
that is.
so up top, we've got the interest income. That's money that
Oh, is that-
Connecticut Water due us. Remember we talked about that one?
Yeah.
And then down here, the expenditures for the different pieces, you'll see in the titles.
Okay, yeah, here it is, here it's the payloader, I'm
Yep.
sorry, all right. So this section is probably worth talking about this, because I don't have my notes in front of me. So on page 20, the next one is 149,000 in revenue for non-recurring capital. And so what is it's 19,000 in interest and
Yep.
130,000 and.
The 130 is Connecticut Water came through and dug up all the roads. And when they finished, they, covered the roads, but they didn't do the final. So they gave $130,000 so that when Eric goes to have those roads redone.
Okay, so the
There's money
expenses will
too.
hit our town budget, then you'll move it to match this?
Yes,
Or-
yeah.
but-
Yep.
yeah,
This is the capital non-recurring, so it's where our capital expenses should happen. And so, yes, you'll see when the roads are done. Same thing, when that town aid road money comes in, you're gonna see that money spent out of that also.
Yeah. So that's up to page 20. So it's normal town activity. I think some of it should go into our normal monthly review, and some of it logically doesn't belong, like, for instance, Jackie's health initiative, if I'm labeling it
It's
correctly.
really the food pantry.
Yeah, food pantry. And then from page 21 on, those are just the sewer
yeah.
WPCA,
WPCA.
because we keep WPCA books. So there's no reason for us to review WPCA books here. They do it at their own board meeting. So that answered, what accounts aren't in the accounts we review monthly, and I'm going to, after I look at it some more, probably move some of them into our monthly review, and some of them logically don't make sense to move into there, so. But now that's everything. That's 100% of all the accounts.
Yeah, let me see if there's something after sewer. They take up a lot, but there might be. Might end with sewer. Oh, that's true. Oh, grants. Yep, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
the old software
Yeah.
had accounts that we went after.
So what Paul has sent you is every account on the town's books. So now, because, I'll admittedly, when I hear, being a past CFO, when I hear there are more accounts, I was like, oh my goodness, what are we missing? There isn't anything, there's no, burning issues. So thank you for that. So now we have all the accounts here, and I think we're in good shape.
Good.
Okay. Any questions before we We got 20 minutes for Mike. We can, well, maybe we'll use
You take a
20
quick
minutes.
So I kind of like seeing all of them, so even though you may move things, I would like the entire.
Yeah, no, I think so too, yeah, except for WPC. What?
Well, I kind of like that too. I mean, it's nice to see where they're spending their money. Even if we never discuss it.
Okay, so we're on to item 13 unless anybody has any other business.
Is that adjournment?
Okay, that's adjourned.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we are adjourning at 8:38.
Okay.